I'm Julie DeLuca. I'm the owner of Rose Place Project LLC in downtown Kalamazoo. Rose Place Project is an initiative that my husband Thomas Leibold and I started in the 80s, late 80s, to renovate historic homes in the Rose Place Historic District to improve the quality of life in the Vine neighborhood. Rose Place, I would say, is very special because of the architecture, the Queen Anne architecture from the 1880s. It's a quiet little court street of beautiful examples of that kind of architecture. And there are no utility lines, there's very few to speak of, and it was just planned out very nicely. And there's something kind of magical about court life and court streets. It's very intimate and quiet, it's away from city traffic. And it just lends itself to a really nice, quiet downtown living environment. Vine neighborhood is a very diverse neighborhood of all kinds of folks. Some are young professionals, single family, renters, students, all kinds, all ages. It's intergenerational. So yeah, it is a big mix. Well, I bought my very first home on Rose Place. And that was in 89. And I just fell in love with the area in downtown. I was working downtown, and I'd traveled in Europe quite a bit and seen a lot of cities, and it just reminded me a lot of Europe. It has a very European flavor to it. And it was just a special little gem that I feel like I discovered. I didn't know that downtown had so many wonderful homes and architecture and neighborhoods. Even though I grew up in Kalamazoo, I did not grow up in the downtown neighborhood, so it was sort of a surprise to me to find this place. Well, this was a special project that we did in 2002, and we have lots of slides and pictures of the entire project and how it sort of started. But it was about 8 years in the making to get it going. There was a lot of talk and planning and preliminary work that had to happen, and it stalled many times because people weren't ready to get going on it. Money had to be raised, and so it was not really a simple project. So I'm going to just describe how the whole collaboration started and who the partners were and kind of how the whole thing came together. Well, we are rehabbing a house right now on Houston Place, which is the court directly to the south of Rose Place. We've been working on that for a while. It's stalled for a bit, but we're going to get back to it eventually. So maybe more community gardens, and then perhaps another court enhancement project on Houston Place. Or there's talk about doing Borough Court, which is another court, and all these are contiguous court streets. I have my co-pilot, Thomas Leibold, my husband, here to help with the computer and everything else. Thank you, Sharon. Appreciate it. All right. I wanted to welcome all of you. Thank you for coming. And I was just thrilled to be asked by Sharon, Lynn Houghton, and Beth to come and talk during this series on the Vine neighborhood. There's nothing I like to talk about more than the Vine neighborhood. So I appreciate that. To begin with, it's going to be a bit of a show and tell. We've got a lot of slides to show you. And so did you want to dim the lights a little bit? I hope I don't put you all to sleep, but we'll see. A little bedtime story. You all have a fact sheet, I hope, and if you don't, you can get one up at the entrance. What I tried to do is combine a bunch of information on one sheet of paper. The first thing I'd like to do is invite you to Rose Place on June 4th. I was at Lynn's talk several weeks ago, and I heard from my neighbor Karen that 2 women from her lecture came down to Rose Place when they heard about this. And was it the 2 of you? Oh, well, thank you for coming down. And Karen had such a delightful time showing you around that I decided, why don't I just put together a little tour on the 4th, real casual. People want to come down, we'll have refreshments and show you around. It's really interesting to actually walk the street and the backyards, the different courtyards, and see what neighbors have actually put together and what it's like. So you're welcome to come down, and that's on the front of this sheet with a few facts and directions on how to get to Rose Place. You can go to our website. We have a map there. one of the first bullet points, you can actually click on roseplaceproperties.com and find a map. And we do request that you actually park on Rose Street, which is at the end of Rose Place, and walk down the court if you can, because there is no parking. It's very, very narrow and intimate, and so that's the best way to do it. Okay, well, we're ready to get started. I have got a lot of artifacts over here that I found too. When I was asked to do this project happened 6 years ago, so I had not thrown anything away, and I had tons of files. I'm not the most organized person, and it was really fun going through all of the artifacts, and I brought a lot of them, on the sketches and initial ideas, photo albums, some books, inspirational books. They're all over on that table. So I'm going to start with this picture, and I could pass this around. I found this picture one day, and I thought it looked a lot like Rose Place. It was in a brochure. It was on gas lights and how to use gas lighting, and I just fell in love with it. I said, that could be Rose Place. I saw the historic gas light, the flower basket hanging from that, and I said, why couldn't Rose Place look this charming with brick sidewalks and this sort of thing? I just hung on to this picture, and so it sort of did get actualized. It actually did get actualized a few years later. And that's sort of where that started. Then, just to give you a little chronology here, and it is on the fact sheet as well, in July of '98, we all the Rose Place residents found this little notice from the city on our doors. And it said, notice to the residents of Rose Place, beginning July 31st, weather permitting, contractors working for the city will be working on Rose Place. They would asphalt the street, and that's basically what they said they're going to do. We had to move our vehicles, and they would be doing it the following day. That was '98. And there was a phone number to call if you had a problem with that. And so the thing to know about this, though, is that Rose Place, and Tom, why don't you go ahead and advance the next slide. This is an original picture of Rose Place looking, tell me what that direction, east. Okay.
Looking toward Rose Street?
Yes, looking towards Rose Street, correct. And that's the original street. That's a 70-year-old concrete street with the cracks and this sort of thing in the concrete. And they wanted to just asphalt over that. But we also had a lot of drainage issues. People were getting water in their basement, and we thought asphalting over that was going to create a lot of problems. We had another vision. We had a bigger picture in mind of what we wanted to do. And so then we just said we would like to table this, and we had a meeting. About a month later, we all went to Department of Public Services and sat with the engineers. And my husband came in with a little centerpiece, and he just sat a big brick paver, recycled brick paver, down in the middle of the conference room table and said, this is what we want to do. We want to brick in our street. We have some other ideas, and they sort of looked at us funny. But then they put together a letter and about improvements, and they were open to our ideas. They were very, very gracious about listening to us, and they showed us that we could asphalt the street for $18,000. We could concrete the street for $47,000, or we could do an imprinted concrete design, where you do the concrete and then you do a design that looks like brick for about $48,000. So that was something they provided for us. So that was the interesting meeting, and Karen has a lot of memories of that meeting. She likes to remind me of, not that you have to speak tonight, but you have shared that that was a very comical meeting, and there was a lot of laughter.